that he would drive a van to an ambush point. It's thought the gang got away with around £350,000 in the raid this morning at Mepham, near Gravesend in Kent. The woman was later released unharmed. She was kidnapped at her home in Dartford in Kent and held at an undisclosed address. A sub-postmaster and his 8-month-old son have been shot in an armed raid on a Sussex sub-post office. 2 masked men entered the post office in Polegate near Eastbourne and shots were fired, although the men escaped empty-handed. The sub-postmaster was holding his young son in his arms. Both were slightly wounded by pellets. 2 men have been arrested. A senior Muslim cleric in Beirut says the process of freeing Western hostages will not stop and will have a happy ending. He said there had definitely been a breakthrough in the long-running hostage crisis. A team of Israeli officials are in Geneva for a second round of talks with the United Nations Secretary-General.
This morning, Mr. Peres de Cuellar spoke of his personal concern for Terry Waite.
I have already discussed at length with the British and with Mr. Hawke, the Minister of State, about the Waite case, and it happens that I know Mr. Waite, and that's what I am really personally interested in helping him.
He then made clear that convicted Arab terrorists in Europe, such as the Hamadi brothers, would not form part of any deal on Western hostages.
But that is a different problem. I think I am now referring to the hostages, and the Hamadi brothers are not hostages, as far as I know. It is a legal case. It's a legal situation which has to be considered by the countries which hold them for legal reasons.
That was later reinforced by the British ambassador to the UN.
He draws a strong distinction between people who've been tried by regular processes in prison and other people who are held in other ways.
The UN envoy Gian Domenico Pico, who plays a pivotal role in all the negotiations, although not willing to talk publicly, also suggested to me that the question of the convicted terrorists was not itself an obstacle to any future deal.
3 people are being questioned by police about this morning's ambush on a bus carrying women and children to visit inmates in the Maze prison near Belfast. The shooting happened on the main Newry to Armagh Road. The bus is one used regularly to take relatives to visit jailed Republican prisoners. The driver was wounded but managed to carry on to Armagh, where the bus was taken away by police for detailed examination. 3 women were treated in hospital for gunshot wounds and shock.
There was a lot of confusion, and it was either a passing car that had shot at them. So there were 2 women injured, one with very bad leg injuries, it would seem, and one to the shoulder. And the children were very, very upset. There was a lot of hysteria.
The government has been accused of misleading bathers about hygiene standards on Britain's beaches. Holiday Witch, the Consumer Association magazine, says its tests show the water at many of the country's most popular beaches is polluted with potentially dangerous viruses.
The government's Blue Flag scheme designates safe beaches solely on the basis of tests for bacteria. When it comes to viruses, confusion is rife. The European Community Standard does lay down safety limits for viruses called enteroviruses, but it's optional. The Consumers Association testing shows 14 beaches fail the test, which is that 95% of samples should contain no viruses at all. In Brighton, which failed the virus test, contamination problems are sporadic. There are no sewage outfalls onto beaches here, but after heavy rain, storm sewers carry pollution into the sea.
We breathe in viruses, we're in viruses, we're surrounded by them. What we need to know is what is a level which the public would then say, well, no, that's not appropriate.
Holidaymakers will stay confused until the government presses for the European standard to be made more practical and more scientifically based. A course recommended today by the National Rivers Authority.
Well, that's all from ITN so far this afternoon. Do join Carol Barnes for the next bulletin from ITN at 5:40. But from me, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. The mother-in-law of a post office worker has been kidnapped at gunpoint and held hostage until the man handed over cash from his security van. It's understood the gang escaped with more than £250,000. The woman was taken from her Dartford home by an armed gang yesterday. The son-in-law was then instructed to drive his van to Mepham in Kent just before lunchtime today. The gang robbed the van and later released the woman unharmed. Bank tube station is closed again this afternoon. It's the second fire alert on the Central Line in less than 18 hours. Packed trains were halted in stations today as fire crews tackled a fire at Bank. Meanwhile, an investigation has been launched into last night's fire alert.
Today's investigation will centre on how last night's fire began. It started in a skip in a tunnel and spread to signalling cables. But the fire should not have been allowed to start at all. The regulations state that combustible materials must be properly protected from the risk of fire. It's not clear what was stored in the skip. Builders' materials and possibly some rubbish is likely. Up to 2,000 people were trapped on 6 trains. Yesterday, Thames News leaked a secret report into an almost identical incident on the same stretch of track in February. It revealed a series of blunders and errors and highlighted the need for dramatic safety improvements on the tube.
Scotland Yard is warning Londoners to be on their guard after it emerged that the IRA may have planted the incendiary device which exploded in a West End pub last week. They believe the pub was targeted to cause panic and disruption in central London.
This is the damage at the Cambridge pub. Landlord John Pucci is still shocked at the news he and his family were the target of IRA bombers. His wife Nina is so terrified by the incident she's had to go abroad. They were woken by the smoke alarm at around 7:15 on August the 5th when the fire broke out. Along with their son and the assistant manager of the pub, they were trapped until the fire brigade arrived. Since that morning, brigade investigators have found 4 tiny cassette-sized incendiary devices. They were pushed between the seats. Forensic scientists discovered they were the same kind of devices which triggered a blaze at a Manchester shopping centre and similar to incendiary devices abandoned at Preston railway station in Lancashire. Scotland Yard fear it could be the start of an IRA bombing campaign concentrating on soft targets.
A new survey says the recession will have cost the region nearly 100,000 manufacturing jobs in a year. The CBI study says the South East will have 96,000 fewer industrial jobs during the third quarter of this year than during the same period last year. Official figures say the sector lost 40,000 manufacturing jobs during 1990, but the CBI puts the actual figure at 70,000. The survey predicts continued falls in output, though at a slower rate. A new report claims the capital's schools are literally crumbling. The study by the spending watchdog, the National Audit Office, reveals that a squeeze on cash has meant many school buildings have fallen into disrepair. A former 18-stone supervisor from Bromley has been named Slimmer of the Year after she shed nearly half her weight. 27-year-old Amanda Brimble used to be a size 26. After winning her Battle of the Bulge, she's now a trim size 10 and weighs just 9.5 stone.
I've just got so much more confidence and energy now. It's, before I just wouldn't walk anywhere, and now I just walk everywhere and leap up and down stairs.
And the Thames weather, the rest of the afternoon will be warm and sunny with a chance of some isolated showers. Tonight will be dry with clear periods, but there'll be some fog patches around dawn. The low 14 degrees Celsius, that's 57 Fahrenheit. And that's the Thames News so far. We're back at 6:30. Good afternoon.
You can help stop violent crime. If you have information about any crime at all, call Crimestoppers now.
Goldie's got a new job.
Protocol.
Protocol! The customs and regulations dealing with the ceremonies and etiquette of the diplomatic corps. It's a job.
Bravo, Sonny.
Oh, bravo, Your Excellency.
Sonny Davis?
Yes. Oh, is something wrong? Should I get my coat? Protocol.
Next Monday at 8.
This is Thames Television at 3:55 for our younger viewers. Children's ITV, but first, The Young Doctors.